Hi, everybody. It's Tana from Bridge to Health, New Mexico, and the Espanola Fitness Studio. Hope you guys are having a great day. Apologies, this was supposed to run this morning, but I don't know what's going on this week with these storms or clouds, but the internet's been really funky. So we're running it a little bit late, but hopefully you're able to catch it on Zoom. You can always contact us at 505-591-4200 with questions you have about this particular topic, or you can comment in the comments on Facebook. Today is a super interesting topic, I think. I hope you do too. It's about why so many of us gained weight over the coronavirus pandemic. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with our little presentation. This is a half an hour presentation talk about this topic. 2 Saturdays from now, that first Saturday of June, we'll do a full hour presentation on this topic. So if you're interested in it, if this just piques your interest, go ahead and join us again on that Saturday. I'm going to share my screen now so that you can oops, I forgot to push share screen, didn't I? There we go. All right, let me share my screen with you so you can see the presentation, and then we'll come back to our recording in just a moment. All right. Hopefully you can see weight gain during the pandemic. And of course, when I talk about the pandemic, I'm talking about COVID-19 pandemic, but I do want you to keep in mind that this phenomenon of gaining weight during a pandemic has been true historically throughout history. This time it was a little worse because we haven't had a pandemic yet in the kind of food environment, exercise environment that we had this time. So I'm going to explain all of that. But you all know that beautiful picture of the coronavirus. There's a reason she's round. Let's just say that, right? She's not a skinny virus, and that should be a hint to all of us. Okay, weight gain during the pandemic is sometimes called the quarantine 15. Maybe you've heard it called the COVID-19, as in the 19 pounds that you gained during the pandemic. The truth of the story is that studies are now starting to be done on how much weight did people actually gain here in America during the pandemic. We all have heard stories about people gaining weight. Maybe we feel it in our own waistline, but there's truth to it. The average weight gain per American was 2 pounds per month, for a total of 24 pounds gained in the year March 2020 through March 2021. So that's a lot of weight, 24 pounds in 1 year that we're holding on to. In another session, I'll talk about that 2 pounds per month, because that small amount of weight gain per month might not seem like a big deal to you on the scale as you measure yourself at least once a month, but it certainly adds up over time. So we'll talk about that another time. But right now we want to know why the average American gained 24 pounds March 2020 to March 2021. Why? Why did this happen? It's so fascinating. It was the perfect storm for weight gain. And I'm going to teach you why now. Hopefully, by knowing why this was the perfect storm for weight gain, it will help you realize what you need to do to lose the quarantine 15 if you did gain it, or how to stay out of some of these traps that will come up even when we're not in a global pandemic. Okay, the first reason is fear of scarcity. What does that mean? That means that our brain panics when it thinks we're not going to have enough food. Our brain is made to keep us alive. And the most important thing it needs to stay alive is energy. Energy comes in the form of calories. calories we get from eating food. Food is our fuel. Whether it's good fuel or bad fuel, it's fuel. So if you remember last March 2020, when the pandemic first hit the United States, people were hoarding food. There was a rush on the grocery stores. We weren't sure if there were going to be shortages in supplies. People bought all the toilet paper and all the pasta and all the rice and all the beans and really all of everything. If you went to the store during that time, you remember seeing empty shelves. And if you've never had the experience of true food scarcity before, those empty shelves were a signal to your brain that, there might not be enough food. And that scares people. It scares all of us. So when our brain thinks that we're not going to have enough food, it activates messaging systems in the brain and the body that make us overeat because it's not sure we're going to be able to eat again. So fear of scarcity, seeing empty shelves, seeing our neighbors in our community make a run on the grocery stores and hoarding food. We needed to also hoard to protect our survival. So that's number one, fear of scarcity. Number two, we were shut inside the house with lots of food. So we had hoarded the food. We bought tons of food. We had it in our house. Then we were stuck in our house with lots of food. I'm going to talk about this a lot when we do our session on the hungry brain. But what I need you to understand is that there's a part of our brain, the hippocampus, that's our old ancient part of our brain. And that part of our brain thinks that we're still hunter-gatherers. It still believes that we need to eat a lot when there's food around because there might not be food around for a few days. Of course, that's not the environment that most of us are living in now. We have food around all the time. So when we have food around, our brain is sending messages, eat, 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 eat. So being shut in with lots of food was not a good thing for our waistlines. Number three, we had lots of time on our hands. For those of you who lost jobs, were laid off, whose jobs changed significantly, if you started working at home, you had time on your hands. Those of you who are essential workers didn't get this privilege, and we're sorry for you for that. It was kind of nice to not have to commute to work for a while for those people that it changed. Certainly wasn't nice for those people who got laid off. But for a lot of the country, they had time on their hands. We don't only eat because we're hungry. We eat because we're bored. We eat because we're happy. We eat because we're sad. We eat because we have nothing else to do and it's a way to fill time. So having time on our hands with lots of food around, with the fear of scarcity, made us eat a lot. Number four, stress. It was a very stressful time. If you lost a job, definitely huge stress. If your children were no longer in school, if you didn't have childcare, if your partner, people in your family had lost their jobs or hours had been reduced, financial stress. If you were able to keep your job, but you suddenly had to figure out technology in order to do your job, that may have been a huge stress. Not to mention the health stress of having a very contagious airborne virus lurking in every corner, ready to make us very sick, make our loved ones very sick, and maybe even have our loved ones pass away. Very, very stressful. What's interesting about stress and eating? A number of things related to weight loss. First of all, studies have been done on stress and eating on monkeys using primates, of course, because they're not allowed to do too many studies on humans in the lab. So we go to primates, not we, I'm not a researcher. The researchers go to primates. What they found is that under stress, primates won't eat if there are only protein sources around. So protein sources are meat, beans, cheeses, fats. Food high in fats are usually pretty high in protein. Primates under stress don't want to eat protein. Protein takes a lot of energy to metabolize, to digest. It's not a quick process to digest protein. So our bodies don't want to eat protein during stress. But what's interesting is that when primates under stress were presented with high carbohydrate foods, especially simple carbohydrate foods, so white flours, pure sugars, stuff that gives you really quick, fast energy, they overate when they were stressed. So just to go back to help you understand this, maybe in the hour presentation, I'll have a graphic about this. Primates under stress will not eat protein. You're more likely not to eat. You know that feeling that you get in your stomach, stress, that you don't want to eat. Primates without stress overeat carbohydrates. So very, very interesting. So we, human beings, do the same thing. If we only have protein around and we're under stress, we don't overeat. But if we're under stress and we have quick, simple carbohydrates around for quick energy, we have a tendency to overeat them. So let's go back to think about what we hoarded, what we filled up our pantries with at the beginning of the pandemic. It was pasta, it was rice, it was ice cream, it was sodas, it was high carbohydrate food. So we overate it because we were stressed about the pandemic. Number 5, we needed soothing. Soothing behavior was necessary. We were stressed, we were sad, some people were grieving, we were watching our children lay on the couch too many hours. We were watching our spouses not be healthy. We needed soothing, and food can be very soothing. There are psychological and physiological reasons why food is soothing. Maybe when you eat a certain food, you're taken back to positive times in your childhood. The process of having something in your mouth can be very soothing psychologically and physiologically. Eating your favorite food makes you feel good. We were under stress, everything had changed, so we needed to be soothed by food. Another reason we overate. Reason number 6 that we gained 24 pounds average during the pandemic was that there was a lack of our normal emotional outlets. So if you needed soothing before the pandemic, you might go out for a walk in the park if you live in the city. You might go out with a friend. You might take a trip somewhere. But all of those were taken away during the pandemic. We didn't have our normal emotional outlets. Suddenly, all that was gone. We couldn't do anything. At the beginning, especially, we thought we really couldn't do anything. Now, for those of us who live in the country, it was a little easier because, of course, we could still take a walk, but it had to go with a mask on our face. It felt different. So we soothed, we used food as our emotional outlet. Number 7, our habits with our family became front and center. We were all in the house together with our family, which we love most of the time, right? But usually families are together for maybe 1 or 2 meals a day on a good day, right? Depending on the age of your family and the routines of your family. Suddenly, we were eating together 3, if not 4 meals a day. Many people talked about how many dishes there were to do during the pandemic, because suddenly people were not grabbing breakfast on the go to eat in the car, on the bus, or on their way to school or work. They were having like a full continental breakfast at home. So cooking, lots of dishes. Then everybody was home for lunch. No longer was somebody eating at work or taking a brown bag to school. It was a full family lunch. And then everybody was home for dinner because sports stopped. Schedules in the evening stopped. There were no classes to go to. There was nothing to do in the evening. So everybody was home. If that's a positive thing for you to be eating with your family, you were happy and you probably overate from happiness and comfort of having everybody around. If it's stressful for you having your family around, eating so much with them, you probably overate out of stress, going back to overeating carbohydrates when we're under stress. Whatever patterns you had with your family, healthy and unhealthy, they were suddenly around all the time, and those habits really were exacerbated. So that's number 7, habits with family. And finally, number 8, it was harder to exercise for those of us who exercise in public places. Suddenly, your group fitness classes were taken away. Your gym was taken away. Your ability to walk or run in a crowded place was taken away for those of you who live in the city or exercise in the city. It was really hard to figure out, wow, how do I get my hard exercise on if I don't have heavy weights? If I don't have an instructor and loud music helping me figure out what to do? So difficulty exercising was a big reason why we gained weight during the pandemic. Maybe you've thought of other reasons. I want you to comment in the comments when this is posted. When we do our 1-hour presentation on this, I'd love to be able to talk to you about your personal experience. So be sure that you join us. It's going to be that first Saturday of June from 9:30 to 10:30 here on Zoom. So just to reiterate, the reasons we gained weight: fear of scarcity, shut in with lots of food, time on our hands, stress. We needed soothing. There was a lack of our normal emotional outlets, our good and bad habits with our families, and we had difficulty exercising. Okay, now I'm going to take off the screen share. And I'm back with you guys. I hope you could see that presentation well, and it piqued your interest for why there was so much weight gain during the coronavirus pandemic. Now that it feels like we're sort of coming out of the pandemic, people are getting vaccinated, things are opening up a little bit more. It's interesting to reflect back on our bodies and our minds during that pandemic time. Again, this was just half an hour on this topic. We'll do the full hour. Be sure you join me. I would love to have some people here live. That would be awesome. You guys have a wonderful day, and don't eat too much. Don't stress. Come exercise. Bye.